Rujum el Hiri is the Arabic name for stone heap of a wild cat. It's a site dating back to the early Bronze Age II, around 3000 BCE. For years, the mystery surrounding this monument continues. Our senior producer, Uri Shapira, went to the sacred site during last week's longest day of the year, the summer solstice. Take a look.
A temple, a burial site, or perhaps an observatory? There's no clear answer to the question of what Rujum el Hiri in the Golan Heights, close to the Syrian border, was used for. It's the largest ancient megalithic monument in the Near East, many compare it to Stonehenge in England.
This place doesn't have any strata, no layers and no finds. It's virtually empty. On the one hand, it's very hard to identify it, to understand when it was built. On the other hand, anyone can tell anything.
The name Rujum el Hiri means in Arabic, stone heap of the wild cat. Experts say it's at least 5,000 years old and associate it with the Chalcolithic era. It's made out of more than 40,000 basalt stones. Over the years, different theories were suggested regarding this site. Some say it was an ancient astronomical observatory, possibly because of its ring-shaped structure.
If you stand in the middle of the central cairn, is not in the middle of the whole complex. So if you shift a little bit south and you stand on the equinox day and look east, there are two huge boulders there. It's kind of a gun sight, and you will see the sun rising through this point.
Others suggest that the place was a tomb, since a small cave was discovered in its center. Dr. Freakman has another theory.
I think, actually, that indeed it was ritual, but it was not a tomb, but it was indeed related to the theme of death. I think that people who served in this place, who prayed here, sacrificed here, they believed that this was the point where the dead people were to pass to the land, to the Netherlands, the place of the dead.
The site was discovered in 1968 by a team led by acclaimed archaeologist Shmarya Gutman. He named it Galgal Rephaim, Circle of Ghosts in Hebrew, referring to the biblical figures, Nephilim or Rephaim, giant people who are mentioned in the Bible as the sons of God.
Rephaim was a nation that was living here in the area, in the Bashan. They were counted as giant, and they were counted in their name. We have three levels of things. One level, Rephaim, is from the word ripui, healing. Another level is Rephaim, in the shadows, people beyond this life. And another thing was Rephaim is that when you saw a giant like the Rafa, you become Refu, you become with less power.
Rujum el Hiri is not a religious place, and its history is much earlier than the cradle of monotheism. However, thousands of years later, it still attracts. Every year on June 21st, the longest day of the year, a few people gather here to mark the summer solstice. Some meditate, practice yoga, sing and pray.
This place really empowers me. When I come here, I feel it is like a portal to other worlds. Meditations here are more intense. I call it personal development accelerator.
I think this place is having a very strong old prayer, an old letter with earth that is saying to us, come over here, work first of all as a circle. Work with no corners, working smooth, and then presence the light, presence that we are light. After all, we didn't come to this world just to build stones.
Who built this site, and how do they manage to recruit such heavy manpower and create such an impressive monument at such an early time in history? More than 5,000 years after it was built, Rujum el Hiri is still shrouded in mystery.
People in spiritual and mystical circles have been talking a long time about this rare solar eclipse on the summer solstice, which is also the longest day of the year. The ancient sacred sites, like the one we just saw in this piece, and places like Stonehenge in the UK from the Neolithic era, have energetic significance during these cosmological and energetic events. Here to discuss more about this is spiritual healer Amanda Ronson of Alchemy Healing and spiritual teacher, guide, and channeler i24 of Telos, Lemuria, Israel. Hello and welcome to both of you. It's so nice to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Obviously, we have gone through a lot. All of us are feeling it in some way or another. For you in particular, talk about how Telos, Lemuria, I know it has to do with Mount Shasta and ancient sacred cities, and you had a big event. So let's talk about this summer solstice and June 21st and why it's significant from the standpoint of the Lemurian beliefs.
So by the Lemurian belief, and especially at Telos, because it's a fifth dimension city beneath Mount Shasta, we had a celebration all over the globe. And here in Telos, Lemuria, Israel, ecologic village, we had a special gathering too. And we are connected to the ancients' memory and to the ancients' knowledge about the Lemuria, a secret energy. So we have the capability to have this beautiful light of the sun that's coming through us and to bring our awareness so high.
When you have an event like this, like we just had this weekend, where there is so much light, but there's also dark. How do you integrate that? How do you put it together and crystallize it?
At this time, a lot of the dark energies are surfacing. So when we go into healing, we have to remove the dark energies. It's shadow work, and it's going into these dense energies and going inside them with the light, releasing them. So that's what's happening when we're going through these healings. And we've got a lot of this, it's enforced much, much stronger at the time of solstice, because we've got the earth energies in alignment, we've got the heaven energies in alignment, and that was in these sacred spaces. So that's exactly.
And eclipses is a
right.
time when the veils are thinner
the
between
highest amount
worlds,
of
right?
energy at that time.
Right.
So what they were looking at is in these places, a lot of healing was happening, and also on the solstice and in these rituals, you've got a time where we base intent into the things that we want, so that we can co-create them. So a lot of this time is now when we should be going inside ourselves, thinking about the things we would like, because we're so being pulled down by all the darkness that's going on around us, and think about what we would like in a positive way, and to put it out there. And the time of solstice, and particularly this time now, because we're between the eclipses and we have Mercury retrograde happening, everything,
and it's a lot of,
and if you look at past history
at this time,
if we look at past history at this time, this is where there is political upheavals. This is where all of the darkness comes into Earth, and we're in a very, very, very transitional period now, where we're moving in forward, and we need to bring in these beautiful light energies. And how do we do that? Is to stay balanced, realize we're going through an energetic upheaval. All right. Realize this is the time darkness is coming up in us. This, this isn't our reality. We're not going to be left like this forever. We're going through a difficult stage. Hold our energy in alignment. Think what we want in the future. Okay. Use the strong energies that we have today to start co-creating that. And I think that was the point of the rituals.
In the work that you're doing, how is it when you're getting many, many people focusing on light and channeling the light? How does it help, uplift the dark from the fifth dimensional standpoint?
Well, actually, what we did in the last gathering in our eco village in the south, we've been done it already. All of us. I mean, in the ancient time, we used to gather together. We used to bring this light with singing, with the humanity being together and not so separate, with one attention, and that we are all connected for the light in this, we call it the field, that it's all activated. So when we build the attention all together, like a lot of people together with an open heart, we just feel the energy rising up, and this is the most beautiful healing ever. The joy, the singing, the open heart, and just do what we used to do in the Lemuria ancient time and in all over the planet. The Tibetan, when they have their pray together, the Jewish, the Muslim, the Christians, all the people, the humanity, the one thing that make and rise our energy and bring the light is the singing and to be all together.
The piece we just saw in Rujum el Hiri, where you're finding these, you don't hear about this in Israel. You hear about King David's time, but to find something going back as far back as Stonehenge, and even today in the news, again, no coincidences. Stonehenge is in the news that they're finding, proof of underground shafts on the outskirts of where Stonehenge is. So to find something here in Israel around that same time, explain the findings and what the circles and the sacred geometry of these locations mean.
Well, first of all, these are all points of ley lines that are going across the Earth. So they're very high energy points that are going across the Earth. And we've got, in Stonehenge, you have 14 ley lines all converging into one space. But if we were to look at Israel and we look at the ley lines there, and we have to look at other specific things, we're going to look at the hills, we look at the, you've got hills coming there, you've got water in that radius. And what these points are, they maximize the energy of the heavens and the earth at those specific points. And if we were to study it even more, you're going to see that these sacred places are across the earth, they're across everywhere, and they are all using sacred geometry. They're they're all in circular patterning, they're all working in the same way. So that would lead us to believe what was going on 5,000 years ago. And now if we're going to go dig deeper, we're finding that there were, these areas were built upon and built upon. So the stones at the top are not the oldest stones. You're going to go back, it's saying 5,000 years, but it's up to me, I'm saying it's 6,000, 7,000, it's going back much, much further. Because who was here first? We know in America with the giants, we know in Israel there were giants.
Well, even the location, the Hebrew for Rujum el Hiri is Gilgal Rephaim, which is Wheel of Giants, and even in, you're looking in Exodus, which is new next to this, how old these areas could be, they talk about seeing giants. We hear the tale of giants in the UK, David and Goliath. So is this also, you believe, pointing to more evidence of things that people write off as mythology and fables we could actually be proving to be true?
This is a time now with the uprising, with all the movements that's going on with the energy, that loads of things are being uncovered, and we have to start looking into it. We shouldn't take things for granted anymore. Yeah. We have to look deeper, everyone. Wake up.
And
it's the time to wake up.
The wake-up call. It's making everyone look deeper. And when we're talking about like Mount Shasta, which all kinds of crazy paranormal things happen. Places like Sedona, where I was over the summer, believed to be built on a bed of crystals, and you really feel it. So there's belief that there's a lot of underground. It's connected, I imagine, to Atlantis as well. So we talk about the matrix on the outside, but is the belief that underground, all of these areas are connected, are actual portals and real energy sources, like a fixed energy?
Yes, when we talk about the inner earth and we talk about the light city, we don't talk about the third dimension. We need to understand it's in the higher dimension, in the fifth dimension. And where are they? They are beneath an open portal, like Mount Shasta, like the big pyramid, Giza pyramid in Egypt, like Tibet and the Himalaya, like beneath Jerusalem, like Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa, exactly, Machu Picchu. So all these portal, what happened, they are actually being open again and activating again, not only now, but in the last 10 years, a lot of light group going and find themselves attractive to these places like the Stone Age, and they are just going there to make their inside activation and to help planet Earth to make all this grid being activated again.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. This is the end of the show, but I want to close Amanda on the show on setting. Let's set an intention. Let's set an intention. Thank you all for joining. We really want to end this show with setting an intention, and we hope everybody will enjoy it, and we can all bring peace and light on earth. Peace and love. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
So insightful, and how beautiful that we are here in the Holy Land to be able to share all of this ancient news that is becoming new, not ancient, because it's now. Thank you very much.
So much.
And thank you all for joining. Have a great day, great week, and we'll see you back here next week, same time.